Keep talking.
We're going to church.
There you go.
All right. Well, we were greeted today by Bob Bell and Mark Brett. And Brett did some catch up because he wasn't here last week. So
Yeah.
Next week we'll have Phil Callahan and Michelle Collins. We were gone by Lord. Very good. And we're going to prayer by Kim.
Dear Lord, thank you for this gathering. Thank you for the food to nourish us. Thank you for the fellowship to nourish our souls. Thank you for everything that you give us. Please give us the wisdom to use the talents that you give us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And we'll join in the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Now, I thought that since we're doing our talk today is about Rotary and about us, that it was the time to do a Rotary song. So, worksheets are on your table. Give my God regards to Broadway is the tune. Here we go. Sing out a song of and go through the land. Give us yourself to serve with helpful love. Working together, to remember our past strength. Sing out the song of Rotary and let it echo throughout the land. All right. Our King sometimes
Everybody. This is working. Okay. Well, nice to see everybody today on this fine spring day. Especially us love the weather. If you don't like the weather in Ohio, just wait 5 minutes, it'll change. Anyway, today we have no visiting Rotarians, no guests, but we have 2 prospective members. We have Bill Scottenborough, head teacher sponsor, and Chris Fine is sponsored by Michelle Collins, our mayor. Remember, in Rotary, the last string is always out.
All right, announcements. Does anyone have an announcement?
I have an announcement, this Monday for the Memorial Day Parade. Hopefully everybody can show up for that. And if you get a chance, they start early in the morning and they go to all three cemeteries here in town. So you can come out for any one or all of those, but be down there for the parade. We appreciate it. Everything's online, the schedules and everything.
All right, anyone else? Tomorrow night is Silver Taps, and that's at Trinity Church. I think it starts at 7. Yeah, 7 o'clock.
Tomorrow morning, merchants meeting here at 7:30 in this room. Love to see you all there. Thanks.
Anyone else? Any other announcements? All right, I think that's it. We're skipping the question today, which brings us to happy dollars. Who is happy today? We should all be happy that we had a wonderful weekend with the Spring Fest. I, of course, missed it, but I hear it went really well.
I missed last week, so I was at the State House doing some lobby work and ran into none other than John Nestor. Right?
Yeah, he said he saw you. Talk with you.
All right, I've got one for an upcoming trip to St. Louis, a first cousin once removed who just got his Eagle Scout who's graduating. And then the second is for the participants of the parade that had to put up with starting 25 minutes early, which I've never made that call before, but we thought we'd have about 30 minutes of good weather before the storm blew in. So even though the crowds weren't ready and nobody else was really ready, we went ahead and started it. Then the storm seemed to accelerate on us. And I was telling the last half of the parade as it's going, look, it's getting worse faster than I thought. You're allowed to abandon the parade at any time to seek shelter, so don't feel that you have to finish the thing. And I made the loop. I was going back to rejoin just after the shrine group, and a huge flash of lightning. And the first decision I consulted with 5 or 6 people on, can we do this thing early? So I talked to the city and the police and all that. The second decision was easy. It's done. I put everybody back. So we got 2/3 of the parade out, but the last third just had to go right back. But everybody was safe. I would never want to injure a life because of it. But it was good fun.
I've got 2 happy dollars. One, I was one of the lucky participants that got to march in the parade in the rain, but I have a parade suit on. I was fine. Did not have a lightning suit on. And the second one was the rest of the weekend was just marvelous.
I have 5 proud Venmo dollars for everyone that helped out with the beer tent. It was very fun to see Rotary's presence at Spring Fest and all the crowds that converted. So thanks.
You have cash?
No. You can take my Venmo money or not take any at all.
We'll take it.
All right. Well, I have 10 Venmo dollars. Where Brenda and I are going to be joining her family at our family reunion over near Seven Springs, Pennsylvania. She has a brother who lives in Harrisburg, so his family is coming west. She has a brother who lives in Akron, so they're coming kind of southeast, and we're going directly east. So we're going to have a whole lot of fun there. So that'll be good.
2 happy dollars. My fiance texted me this morning and asked what today was, and I got it correct. It's a month out from our wedding. But we also have got our marriage license Monday, and then she'll move up in 2 weeks after her school year. So long distance will be done.
$2 because we got certificates for the scholarships that we gave. The one in memory of H.B. Bear and the other one in memory of Dr. Glenn Brandon. So we got to thank you for that. Um, I'm glad to be back. I'm sorry I had to miss virtual last week because I don't like to miss. However, I was on a really terrific cruise, a Viking cruise on the Great Lakes. It was an expedition cruise, which meant it was very science oriented. So I had to learn the stuff. But I like that. And there was also a lot of history involved, so it was awesome, although it was a little chilly. Anybody else? All righty, that will bring us to Top Dog, which right now the winner's share is $130. And we're looking for the 9 of diamonds.
Okay,
Nine, five, two. 952. Brett.
All right.
I might,
Where do you get all your Venmo dollars back?
yeah, I might have some money. I might get real money back.
It's all that's not counting.
now you forget the rule, when I go, that's the winning card's not in there.
At least I get my $5 back.
Right.
Jack of diamonds.
Oh, darn. Okay. Well, that brings us to time for our speaker. And today is our very own Brian Davis. And he's going to talk about Rotary. So here we go.
All right. You're good, Justin. I can move the mic. How is everyone today? Excited? It's great. It's good stuff. So, Cole, Tom, and I have met for probably the past 2 months to talk about all the things that you saw in that email that I sent you. And so we're going to talk through some of that stuff today. I think it's important to remember that that was a draft. There is no final recommendation. We're just kind of working our way through the discussion. And we thought it was important to bring it to you all here today to just kind of see where we're at. And then from my training as an educator, sometimes when you're talking about things that are difficult or change oriented, we kind of need to just go back to the basics. So I'm going to pass out some of these paddles. These are what I like to call the go or no-go paddles. And it's just a quick way to kind of read the room. If like what I'm saying is like an absolutely not, you need to stop talking, this is what you hold up. If you kind of like where we're heading, this is what you hold up. That just helps understand what's going on and gives you kind of a private way to give some feedback. So let's get these passed out here. There will be a point of the thing today where we'll have like not a formal vote, but like actual prompted questions. So that's primarily where we'll use them. But again, as I'm talking today, if you have questions, feel free to stop me. If there are thoughts that you want to like hold that up for, that's fine. Thanks. So the plan was I have kind of a presentation that kind of walks through the document that I sent is kind of what I would call the board's spiel per se. And then there's some time for like questions and thoughts and ideas and discussion as we kind of head towards the end of it. Fair? Good. Good. Yes. We're on the same page. Okay. So I threw some words up here because I think this is it's important to kind of landmark and highlight Cole, Tom, and I's discussion. They are not here today, so I'm carrying all of the water. And I expect that to be noted next week when they return. But we really talked about and we're focusing on the club as a whole. How can we make sure that it's sustainable? How can we improve or increase or confirm our level of engagement that we want? How do we want to serve the club? How do we want to serve the community? And this is a we discussion. You know, if we decide X is a great idea, let's do it. That's because we decided it. If we decided we don't like that, we want to do this thing, that's because we decided that as a group. So there's no forcing one way or the other. This is a discussion that we want to have about where this club wants to be in the future. It's important to note that we are trying to appreciate the past. There's over 100 years of history in Miamisburg Rotary. There is no way that we know all of that. intricately, and we respect that there are things and decisions that have been made that have led us to this point, and we're not trying to tear everything down. We want to act today. There's some time frames that we'll talk about with why this is semi-timely. And then we want to really establish a framework that we can use that will take us forward in the future in the next couple of years. So we'll talk about how we got here, what kind of questions did we ask ourselves, kind of the framework we're thinking about. We'll talk about the 3 areas that you read about that we'll talk about, and we'll get some feedback as we go. So I like to start all of kind of the what I might be considered as either hard or change oriented or maybe difficult conversations with the attitude of gratitude and grace. So I'm going to use words like I or me or we to kind of represent myself and Cole and Tom. And that's just because we were talking about it as a group. That may sometimes reflect like that's an entire board's decision or that's an entire thought process. That may or may not be true. So anything that we say, if it comes across as like, well, that was disrespectful, or don't they know that this happened there, or what about this thing? That's not the intent. We're just trying to kind of make sense through the mud and try to make our way through. We have no intention of like disrespecting or speaking ill of any decisions or thought processes in the past. We, just like you, are volunteers. We raised our hands to join the board. As part of the board, we have the opportunity, which we're grateful for, to understand kind of the inner workings of the organization, and that led us to thinking about options and direction moving forward. As a result of that, all we ask in return is just a little bit of grace. Again, this is me speaking. I'm one of you. We're all part of the same team. So if you don't like what I have to say, please don't hate me. We're just trying to take a step forward, right? So I always like to say when we're talking about change, which change is difficult no matter who it is, no matter what it is, assume positive intent. Please assume that Cole, Tom, and I have positive intent with all of these ideas. And please understand that we don't know what we don't know. So there are things that exist in the world in the Rotary that we don't know. And so if some of our decisions are founded on wrong intention or wrong foundation, we may just not know that. So that's part of this discussion too, is to kind of bring some of those things to light. Fair enough? That's enough of the asterisks. So I think I've done enough to protect myself from what may be coming at me. All right. So where did this conversation start? So we started with a discussion at the board level that dues are up in June. We start voicing for dues in June for the next Rotary year, which is July 1 through June 30. So Rotary dues have been $150 per person for as long as most of us can remember. We haven't adjusted that rate for a long time. We have a thing called senior active members, which get a reduced rate on that dues membership. That 150 gets reduced. And those dues payments have traditionally covered the cost of Rotary International membership, our district fees, and those costs have increased over time and are planning to continue to increase, such that the $150 number was not the right number to continue moving forward. And so we started looking at that as a board to talk about what do we do with that? What do we want to do moving forward? So if we look at how the dues were formatted in 2024, 2025, so this was July 24 through June 25. The Rotary International fees were $104.73 per person. That covered the Rotary International dues, the magazine, Council on Legislation, Director's Office Insurance, General Insurance, all the Rotary function things come from that number. The district charged $40 per person also. So add those together, $144.73 was the rate, right, that we paid to these two organizations. So when we charged $150 per person, the club netted $5.27 per active member. Make sense? We have the senior active member, however, that's $130, so it's $20 less. So that is less than the $144.73. Yes. Yes. You know, it's a funny thing that you should ask that question. So you have to have 80 years. Okay, 85 is the number, and that's a combination of your age and your years as a Rotary member. So if I was 25, but I've been a Rotary member for 60 years, I would count. I know, right? So you can be 50, but have been a Rotary member for 35 years, and you'll still qualify as a senior active member. So you don't have to have it, but we have it. So I think the intent was at some point the active members were making enough net to offset the subsidy of the senior active members. Factually accurate, but I think they are generally true. We have 30 active members, 17 senior active members, and 4 that are called senior exempt that don't have to pay any of that. So when you do some quick math, we've come to the point back then in 24-25 that the net of the active does not cover the cost of the subsidy of all the senior exempt. So that, again, was one of the circles that we started going around when we talked about the actual numbers and finances. Then we move into 25-26. So this is July 25 through June 26, which is what we're coming up against. Rotary International 109, District 45. So 154.07 is the current cost. So everyone's dues are being subsidized right now this year. Next year, which begins July 1st, it's 112, 45, 157. So regular active is subsidized $7, senior active is subsidized $27. The next year, it goes up a little bit more. The next year, it goes up a little bit more. The dollars and cents of it aren't the critical issue for us to all understand today, just the idea that business model of Miamisburg Rotary Club is strained against the increase of cost for these other organizations that we are that we are a member of, so that we pay into. With me so far? Fire away.
Any degradation in our actual population of members? Because I think in the last 5 years, it's probably gone from 65 to 50, which is about 20% reduction.
Yeah, so this is like straight in, straight out, not looking at the collective just yet. This is just at a fundamental level. If we charge $150 for active and $130 for senior active, regardless of how many we have, we're both underwater by this amount. So the actual subsidy of the club gets calculated by what you're talking about, which is how many are in each category, which kind of tells you how big is the leak, so to say. We don't know. I mean, we know, but it doesn't quite matter to what we're talking about immediately. If that's fair enough. Cool. All right. So Cole, Tom, and I got really excited because that's an easy thing to solve, right? If you're subsidizing things by $5, you raise the price by $5. If you're subsidizing the senior active by $17 or $25, you have a conversation of, do you have enough actives to cover that, or do you just raise the price of the senior active, or do you just get rid of that column altogether? Those are somewhat simple solutions to a somewhat easy math problem, right? But then we kind of started asking ourselves questions. And the first question that we asked was, what does it cost to be a member of Miamisburg Rotary? The answer to that question is actually complicated, because there are a lot of different ways that we get charged or calculated as part of being a member of Miamisburg Rotary. So we said we might want to talk about why that's so difficult. It would be probably easier to sell Miamisburg Rotary if you could answer that question very simply. At a very basic level, it costs time and money. It costs between $625 and $870 per year. You have to attend hourly, weekly meetings once a week. You have to volunteer throughout the year, and you got to work Pancake Day. Those are the fundamental requirements that it costs to be a member of Miamisburg Rotary. But once you answer that question, you have to ask the next question is that the right model moving forward? Is that sustainable? Does that lead us to the level of engagement that we want? Is that the service orientation that we want? Or is that what we want it to be? We also asked the question, are we a philanthropic organization or are we a service club? I've been in this club for 5 years and I've heard this question batted around and around and around, right? Do you care about the money or do you care about the service? Right? I mean, every time we talk about meals or every time we talk about dues, it's always about, are we just trying to get money from our members, or are we here to serve the community? And sometimes those things work hand in hand. Sometimes they're in conflict with one another, right? So what we kind of said to kind of put it on the shelf for a minute is we are both. We are a philanthropic service club. right? So we are here to serve the community in a philanthropic manner through our time, through our talent, through our treasure. And then, is that what we want to be? Do we have the right mix of those two things? Is that the right level of engagement and sustainability that we're looking for? Right? So that led us to kind of a wholesale, full-scale, like, all right, Miamisburg Rotary Club's been around since 1922. What is the model that keeps us going to 2032, 2052, 2072? To your point, membership has weaned over the years. That's true of every volunteer organization across the country. So do we just go down that slow path, or do we make some changes? Do we find a way to kind of reinvigorate or reinvest and figure out a different vision or a slightly different path through the woods to try to change that trajectory? So we looked about how visible are we in the community. We talked about how financially sustainable are we. We talked about, are we attractive to new members? We talked about how we focus on meaningful service. And we talked about if we are positioned for long-term success. So that was all of the things that we kind of talked about in a big circle, lots of circular discussion before we finally kind of focused it towards an idea, which we'll talk about today. So there's three basic pillars that we landed on. First is transparency and simplicity in club finances. So we looked at the four-way test and we started thinking about, is the way that we talk about our finances, is the way that we communicate that to new members, is the way that we communicate that to each other, does that pass the smell test on all of those four-way test questions? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, right? So our current model is this. This is just kind of the one pay, big picture, big numbers that exists. So if you pay the full rate as a one pay member, you pay for your dues, you pay for 49 meals at $10 a pop, you pay for 25 pancake day tickets, and in the past you paid for the 2 fundraising tickets. We'll see where that goes in the future, but that was the model. So that's what led us to the $870 for the full pay all year. If you were in partial pay mode, same idea, except instead of the full meal, you pay $5 per meal, and then if you want to actually eat that day, you pay $5 at the door to get you to the tent. But up front, you basically pay $625, $20 less if you're a senior active. And that can be paid one pay, that can be paid quarterly, that can be paid however the models work that Barry does a great job of helping us stay on top of. Right? Everybody good with that? So what we think a better model is instead of a full pay, partial pay being the distinction, we think we should break our finances down into buckets. One bucket is dues, membership dues. One bucket is meeting expenses, and one bucket is philanthropy. So the membership dues should be the number to collect enough revenue that covers or exceeds the cost of the club existing as a club, right? So these are the costs of this club doing business. Not the cost of the club meeting, not the cost of the club raising money, but for the club to exist, what do we have to pay? So we know we have to pay Rotary International. We know we have to pay district fees, right? But what else is out there? Well, do we have a post office? Do we have to buy paper? Do we have to buy pencil clips? Do we have to buy badges? Do we have to fund the Interact Club? Do we have to, like, those are all of the things that happen because we exist as a club. And currently, there is no money going towards those things directly. So they kind of get, not hidden, but they're just in the wash, right? Meeting expenses, we feel like is such a thing that this club is, that should be its own bucket also. So rather than confusing that or mixing that in with the dues conversation, the meeting expenses are simply the costs for us to get together. So that's a weekly meeting here. That's the food that we eat. That's the winter Christmas dinner that we do. I forget the words, but you know what I'm saying. Those, when the club gets together, there are costs, right? And it's more than just the meals. We pay rent. We have a speaker system. We have infrastructure that we have to have. Where are those costs coming from? Where's the revenue coming from to cover those costs as a club? And then finally, philanthropy. So obviously the revenue that it takes to put on philanthropic excursions need to outpace the cost of doing those also, but that's the cost of us doing philanthropic efforts. Make sense so far? Membership dues, meeting expenses, philanthropy, right? So as an example, when we take our full one pay model of $870, we have dues, we have meals, we have pancake day, and we have fundraisers. It's not changing the numbers yet. It's just putting the money into separate buckets. So we put the dues in the dues, we put the meeting meals in the meeting, and we put the pancake and fundraising tickets into the philanthropy, right? Keep everything separate. With me so far? Okay. Quick note on meals, and then let's try not to get stuck in the weeds here. Let's just say these words, and we'll move on to the next one, and we'll come back to it when we need to. Okay? The way that we live today, and I would say that these numbers are accurate but not precise. So if I'm off by 1 or 2 in either column, please don't yell at me. Accurate but not precise. So we have 4 people that the club covers meals for. That's for them helping service the actual club, making it all happen. We have 19 people that pay the $10 in advance prepaid meals. We have 21 people that do the $5 partial pay, and then they pay $5 at the door if they're eating. And we have 7 people that are on a leave of absence or have an exemption. They don't pay any of that stuff. So we have 51 people in the mix right now. Our friends at TJ Chumps give us a discount. So we sometimes can complain about the quality of the food, but we also have to understand they are giving this to us at a very, very, very cheap rate because that's what we've asked them to do. So we should be grateful for that. But they charge us $9.75 per meal. They charge us $9.75 per meal for the first 35 meals, no matter how many people actually paid or how many people actually eat. It is a fixed cost to the club. So every week we pay $341.25 no matter what happens. Any people over 35 that eat, we charge another $9.75 per person. Make sense? So if 37 people are here, we charge that number twice plus the $341, right? But our model shows us that we have $295 per week paid in advance. And so for us to not lose money just on the food, we have to have 10 people pay at the door every single week. Otherwise, we're subsidizing that food on that table. So as an organization, we have to talk about that, is kind of where we're coming from today. An example, a couple weeks ago, we had the Interact kids here, right? We had 33 people present. We had our 10 Interact members. We had our 2 advisors, and we had a prospective member. We paid for 45 meals, $419. $295 in advance. 13 people paid $5 at the door, which means the revenue was $360. So we subsidized the food on the 29th to that amount, right? And that might be okay. That might be a decision that we make that, hey, that's Interact. We don't care. That's part of the club. That's philanthropic, potentially, right? So that's how we start talking about these separate buckets. But anyway, it's just important to understand that's the structure that we're living in. Fair? Okay. Do not, I'm going to say this. It's not going to work. Do not worry about the numbers on the screen yet. Okay? We'll talk about it, but don't get hung up trying to read every line and talk through every single thing. Fair? Okay. So this is our financial snapshot that we get as a board once a month when we meet. This is July 25 through April 26. So we're 10 months into a 12-month Rotary year, right? So the year's not done yet. These numbers aren't final for the whole year. This is just a snapshot in time. So this is all of our income. So where the money comes in, this is our revenue for the club. Basically $63,000 in income so far. On the expense side, we have $62,038. Good news. So the club is profitable to about $1,000. Okay? If we start looking at the model of dues versus meeting versus philanthropy, we itemize. So let's look at dues first. So these are all the revenues that go to the dues idea. So initiation fees, member dues, Rotary Foundation income, website sponsorship. Those are the things that are our revenue from us existing as a club. And then we line that up against the expenses that happen because we exist as a club. What we find is it's subsidized. Right? Let's do it again. Let's take meeting expenses. So on the revenue side, we have fines and happy dollars, our holiday party, our meal income, our raffle income, our rental income, our social events, our top dog, all the money that happens when we get together as a club. And then let's line that up against the expense that it costs us when we get together as a club. What we find is that for the first 10 months of this year, we are subsidizing this also. So as a club organization, we are structurally subsidizing our membership and existence, and we are subsidizing the cost for us to get together, right? But we're making $1,000 so far as a club. So how do we do that? It's actually the philanthropy that's covering that cost. So I'm not here to say that's a bad idea. I just think that we have to decide that that is the idea. So if we are doing philanthropic efforts in the community, we probably need to know as a club and communicate that some of these efforts go to cover the cost of us existing as a club and us meeting as a club. So when we make money at Pancake Day, as an example, that money doesn't necessarily go out into the community. It comes to help this club function. Not necessarily bad. We just have to say that out loud and agree to that as members is kind of the model that we're looking at. Does that make sense so far? So, so I guess this is obvious, but our thought is that we should make sure that dues cover more than just Rotary International and district fees, that they should cover the cost of the club's existence, and that maybe the senior active subsidy is growing and is not a sustainable model for us to continue down the path of. The meeting expenses need to cover more than just the meals. They have to cover the cost of rent and everything else that it costs for us to get together. The full pay and partial pay meals aren't covering the fixed costs, so we got to figure out what to do with that thing. And then we think that really philanthropy should never be used to subsidize the cost of this club existing, and the cost of us getting together as a group is kind of our philosophical North Star as we've kind of put this thing together. So our idea is kind of looking towards a one-rate model. I don't know what the numbers are yet, but some idea that to be a member of Miamisburg Rotary, we all are paying the same rate. We're all contributing to the fixed cost of the club existing. We're all paying to the fixed cost of the club meeting as a group. And then somehow, if a financial burden exists, then that's a club effort of being philanthropic towards membership is kind of a thought process behind it, like a scholarship. Right? So it's not necessarily the door is closed, you can't come in, but we have to acknowledge that that's us being philanthropic towards our members, right? And just not accidentally doing it, I think is the idea. Good so far on Pillar 1? All right. Pillar 2, focus on service over meeting logistics. So we have 49 meetings per year when we meet every single week, 49 meetings per year. Each meeting takes an hour of your time. You have to travel here, you have to decide if you're going to eat or not, and you have to decide if this is worth your time to come to. For some of us, that's a very easy decision. For some of us, that's a very difficult decision. And every week we're balancing that value of, is it worth my time to come and socialize and interact and network, or is it worth my time to stay at work or stay at home or do whatever's happening? Every time, so sorry, this is our current attendance percentages. So we have 62% of the club that is at 100% attendance at these meetings. We have 22% of the club that's between 50 and 97% attendance. And we have 16% of the club with less than 49% of attendance at meetings. That includes any makeups that you have from serving the club. So it's not actually a directly true reflection of how many butts are in the seats on any given moment, but that's how we track it from a Rotary perspective. So again, is that the goal? Is that the picture of success that we want as a club? Is that, well, as long as 40% of our membership shows up occasionally, we're fine? Or do we need to figure out how to get that 40% here more often? And then I think it's also important to remember that each time that we get together, there's a lot of administrative stuff that has to happen. There's all the other volunteers that make the program work, the AV work, what Judy and Barry do every single time. There's just finding speakers for every single week. There's a lot of effort that goes in to making that happen. And we just got to evaluate if that is the best use of time as a Rotary Club or not. So the model that we think might make sense to consider is kind of a service above self was the model that we kept going back to. Is maybe we look at a bi-monthly meeting or a less frequent meeting model where we spend less time meeting and more time serving. Yeah, I meant bi-weekly. Twice a month probably is the idea. It's not final. That's for us to talk about today. Yeah. No, yep, I get you. That's incorrect. Just ignore that. The discussion was to spend less time in this room and more time outside of this room as a Rotary Club, to spend less effort serving each other and spend more effort serving the community. was the idea. That was kind of the philosophy behind what we were aiming at. How frequently we meet, don't know. Is it every 2 weeks? Is it every 3 weeks? Is it you take one Wednesday off a month? I don't know. That's what we're going to talk about here in a bit. But some acknowledgement that it takes a lot of effort and energy and costs and subsidy right now for just us to get together. And is that what we want to be as a club? If we reduce the amount of time that we get together, though, we have to commit as a club to use that time to benefit the club. So either through increased volunteer efforts, that's maybe creating some time to make that satellite club actually happen, maybe through more interact engagement. The idea is, some of the words that we talked about, Cole, Tom, and I, was, everyone has to make a decision about how much time they're willing to give to Miamisburg Rotary. Some of us, when we give 49 hours a year to be at the meeting, 6 hours of pancake day, I'm giving you my time already by being here. The question is, do we need to create some space so that people have that same amount of time but can put some of those hours out in the world, instead of being a member of Rotary as coming to the meeting, or as being a member of Rotary serving out in the community, is kind of the frame of reference that we're trying to talk about. And we believe that the socialization and networking is important and potentially can be done in other ways. Anyone that wants to meet every single week can meet every single week, whether it's here and we continue the rent payment, sure. Whether it's at the Rotary Shelter at Mound Park, sure. Whether it's we take turns going to people's houses or businesses or whatever, sure. There's other ways to kind of create the socialization aspect, potentially without the need of the cost and expense of the club subsidizing us getting together as a whole big group, was kind of the discussion. All right, and then the last pillar was to establish a culture of service within the club, to really make sure that we have that service above self mindset as a general club and get more participation of more members helping and serving the club more often. So with 50 members in the club, 51 members in the club, Tom was like, let's aim at 1,000 hours a year. If we can just volunteer 1,000 hours a year, that feels like a good metric. Well, that's 20 hours per person. If instead of meeting 49 times a year, we meet 25 times a year, guess what? We just found 20 hours. So the goal wasn't like everyone's got to do more. The goal was, if we want to create a service requirement or service suggestion of 20 hours per year, we have to find 20 less hours of Rotary so that we can fill it with 20 hours of service, to not keep taxing people with more time and more effort and things like that. So that was the idea. Can we have a commitment of 20 hours per member per year? The hours in our mindset would be aimed at Rotary volunteer efforts only, right? So if you're here representing Rotary and that's the badge that you're wearing, that counts, but that has to be part of a club function thing. So if you're just volunteering your time as a human at SIXA because you love dogs, great, but that's not your Rotary service hours. Unless Rotary says, hey, we're going to go to SIXA for a day, and then that's Rotary hours, right? So it's just making sure that we're representing Rotary for those time was kind of the thought process. And then we understand that not everybody has time to give, and some people have money instead of time, and so maybe there's this buyout option. Again, that's kind of what we're used to at the parent level of sports. Is you can either volunteer 5 hours at the concession stand, or you can write me a check for $100. Here's my check. I don't ever want to do that. So just giving people the option was the thought process. We think that from a volunteer organization perspective, the ones that are successful across the country connect people to mission work through service. So if we want to get more members in this club, potentially a younger demographic of members in this club, we have to be missionally focused, and we have to give people the opportunity to make an actual impact in the community. That's true across the country with service organizations and volunteer clubs that have engagement and growth. That's the model that seems to be working right now. We think if we do more in the community, we'll be more visible in the community, and this model gives us a way to connect kind of the checks that we write to some of these organizations actually to us serving them as volunteers and as members. And obviously for this to work, we have to create more opportunities for volunteerism, more ideas, a more consistent service, things like that. Good? All right, so we're both a philanthropic service club. And what does it cost to be a member of Miamisburg Rotary? You have to contribute your dollars and your time. In the packet was an idea of what potentially it could cost. We're not going to talk about that right now. I'm going to ask some questions that will lead us to what this may look like. So we took the 870 and kind of modeled it in these three buckets. That's what those numbers came from. Essentially what we said is we could find a model where $800 a year is the one cost to be a member of Rotary. But that's solely dependent on how we choose to do the meeting expense column. Right? We think that 225 is the number that the membership dues need to be, and we think that 150 needs to be the philanthropic dues, so that column in the middle is where all the wiggle room exists as a club. Good? So what does it really cost? It kind of depends. So I'm going to ask you some questions. We'll just do some paddle work, and then I'm sure there's questions in the room, so we'll just debate for a little bit. Fair? All right. What do you think about the service requirement for service commitment? 20 hours per person per year. Okay, good. What about the transition towards a bi-weekly meeting? Fire away.
What is the Rotary commitment to meetings? I mean, is there a minimum number of meetings that our club has to make to be a Rotary club?
I don't think so. We know of clubs that meet once a month. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So would you prefer to reduce meeting costs, meaning we keep the food cost where it is and the quality the same, but if we meet less, it costs less? Or would you prefer to keep the meeting cost the same, so if we meet less, but the cost stays the same, it gives more money available to add towards food or various things to actually for the meeting expenses? So green, if you would like to increase the cost or keep the cost the same, but look at how much we pay to meet. And then red, if you would like to reduce the cost based on the meeting. Ask questions, yes. Not yet. So the simple idea is that right now we pay $400 for food per week, right? If we meet every week, that's 49 weeks, right? If we keep the $400 per week cost the same, but we only meet twice a month, you now have $800 for food each time you meet. That would create more opportunity for different things. What it is yet, don't know, but that's the concept. What's that? 100%.
About if you guys did switch to bi-weekly, they said like if the costs remain to stay the same, but you guys went down to only 2 a month, it would go up, as in like grilled chicken, salmon, different types of meat options, different options for you guys versus what you are getting now. Because most of what you get now is on our catering menu, which we don't offer in the restaurant. We actually get it shipped to us for you guys.
Yeah. So it's just yeah.
Significant portion. And is that philanthropic? Or because I know other organizations, for example, will go to a restaurant and the restaurant will comp the room because they know they're going to get the food expense. So
Could be, yeah.
I think it's a question.
Sure.
As a board member of the BOM, I know that Rotary meeting here is a benefit to the BOM.
Sure.
Yeah, you know, we're making money on the space because Rotary meets here. If we only meet here twice a month.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, so again, the idea is we just have to, as a club, we have to say us paying the BOM rent is a philanthropic effort. So when we fundraise in the community, that's where our money is going to support the BOM. We just have to say it in those kind of terms, I think, is the right way to keep us on the, again, four-way test path.
Philanthropic purposes.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's all kinds of options there. Yep. Two more, and then we'll just have time to talk real quick. So are you comfortable with the idea of the three buckets: membership dues, meeting expenses, philanthropic? Yeah.
And if we're going to refocus, basically 95% of members in Rotary are old. So our target market is younger people. And generally people have a marketing campaign when they're trying to do something like that. And that's something we've totally stayed away from.
Sure.
And I think we should consider that.
So adding some marketing costs within the model. Yeah. All right, last question. Are you comfortable with the approach of basically saying keep the buckets separate from one another? Don't use philanthropic revenue to subsidize the cost of us meeting and the cost of us existing as a club. All right, cool. So that's all I got. We got a couple minutes, I think. So what other questions are out there in the world? Yes.
So seeing kind of the time analysis has been really helpful as I've thought through and lived this year as the Interact chair. I've spent a lot more time at the high school, which means I haven't had as much time to come to our weekly meetings or do board meetings because I have to balance work, family, and service. And so this model makes me really excited because I think it frees up some time to do more service, and the opportunities I've had with Rotary to help out at the park or the beer tent, I think that gives me a better opportunity to build relationships with some Rotary members and an opportunity for me to invite friends to come alongside and serve with us. So again, freeing up some time, and I think membership capacity to be a little more thoughtful with those service opportunities makes me really excited.
Yeah, I have comments also. St. Jacob went through this process 8 or 10 years ago, the cost to just sit there. And that's really an important concept. If you do nothing, it still costs money to sit and to be a club. And I do like the idea. I was shocked that we're subsidizing ourselves. But I don't think that's appropriate. And that's my opinion. And I do like the service hours. We give money to 20 organizations, give them some time too.
Ryan, have you looked at anything about doing away with meals if you're having to subsidize it so much?
Sure. Yeah.
I told Ryan I'd keep my mouth shut, but I had the advantage of going over this at the last board meeting last week. And as I said at the board meeting, I got that flyer that you put out early Wednesday morning. I started going through it and I thought, oh, Christ, what is this? But, the more you look at it and the more you dig into it, what you have put together makes a lot of sense. And I want to commend you and Tom and Cole for the effort that you put in. I mean, this is very well thought out. I think there's a lot of discussion that has to be taken to go over this in the future and put this into effect. But I think that actually this gives us an opportunity, I think, not only to bring younger people in who know where their money's going and how it's being utilized, but also to reach out to friends of mine who have been members of this club who said, I just can't take it anymore and have moved away. Maybe this will give them an opportunity to come back to see that we're changing, that we're trying to move into the future in a more positive way. So I commend you guys for what you have done and what you have put together. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I get so many questions asked to me. I don't even know what Rotary is. So we got to do some kind of marketing to say what it is that we do.
Yep.
I guess maybe my situation's, I'm only speaking for myself. I don't have a problem with paying more in dues been paying $150, been a member of this club probably damn near 30 years. I don't have a problem paying more in dues. I don't have a problem paying more for a weekly meal. You get what you pay for. I don't particularly, I'm not crazy about the idea of going down to a bi-monthly meeting, just because now all of a sudden I have to keep track of what day it is. You know, now every Wednesday, if I want to go to Rotary, I'm going to Rotary.
Sure.
And now then it's like, shoot, do we meet this week? I think you're going to wind up losing people if you go to less than a week. That's just my gut.
Sure.
But overall, I think the cost of Rotary, cost of Rotary needs to go up. If we want to have a Rotary Club, we shouldn't be subsidizing this club with Pancake Day.
Yeah.
We ought to pay the freight. Hell, we're the business people in this community. We ought to pay the freight to be part of this community. And we ought to be willing to donate the time necessary to do it.
Sure.
Just to let you know, all of Pancake Day funds do get spent to the community. That is one project that we do not take the money from and subsidize anything from. We give it all back.
Yep.
For Pancake Day.
Yep.
I can't say that for anything else, but
Right.
Pancake Day, yes.
Cost associated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last one, and then I'll recap real quick. You guys can fight, or you can both say it as long as you're quick.
Phil, I'm not going to say I disagree with you, because I do agree that probably meeting less frequently means harder to track, harder to keep track of, right? However, going back to the marketing idea, I think if we have service requirements and are out in the community serving more, that is marketing for what Rotary does. So if we could figure out a way where we can do both, meet weekly and have service requirements, I think that would probably be most beneficial for Rotary and least beneficial for everybody's schedule, unfortunately.
People is different than the commitment to take a Saturday and do a function, or to take a night out of the week and do a function. And I've been a member of this club a long time. Some years I've always distinguished between a member of Rotary and a Rotarian. Some years I've been a Rotarian. This past couple of years, I've been a member of Rotary. I have not been a good Rotarian. When we passed around the list of people to pour beer, I don't know how many people you had sign up to pour beer, but I would venture to say it was a percentage much less than the membership of the club. I don't know that. And I think that's true of any Rotary function that we have. Yep. You wind up having a handful of people that show up and do all that work, and the rest of us show up at lunch every week. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's just, some people are Rotarians, some people are members of Rotary. Yep. And we just need to realize that.
Yep.
One of the problems with not meeting all the time is that then we're not interacting with each other and sharing the service that we are doing. And if you do a service project and you miss a meeting, then you've still done your time. So I think we can come up with a way to work that all out. Change is hard. We know that. But we also know that if we don't make some changes, we might die. So we don't want that. So I really think that what they've put into coming up with these ideas is fantastic, and we'll make good with what they've done. Ted?
We go from here. Hope this doesn't get thrown into the dust bowl of good ideas.
Yeah.
And nothing ever, happens. I mean, somebody has got to take the lead here and make sure that a discussion takes place, and we keep working on this until we come to a resolution.
Yeah, this has been very helpful for us. So Cole, Tom, and I will continue to meet. Whether it's next week or the week after, we'll come and kind of do one more probably round of this idea, maybe a little cleaner and firmer push forward based on what we've heard so we can actually take some action. Some of these things we have to do no matter what, generally, in my opinion. So, yeah, so there's the model is we got to formalize the framework, we got to draft some bylaws changes, we got to develop the transition plan, and then we got to actually vote on it. So there's behind the scenes and like requirements for all this to happen, but we want to start with the concept ideas today and then keep working on it. Yeah.
That you have club, it's working. You got club input before you make changes. Like one of the big ones I think that's coming up is either weekly or bi-weekly meetings. Okay, I think you need to get input from the club and make a decision based on what the club wants before you formalize any of that.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. The plan is we'll come back with a more close to final plan, get feedback, then formalize it, then vote on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, we're a little over. Appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you. All right, we're a little bit over, but I think it was well worth our time and effort here. Thank you so much. Tom is in Florida, by the way, which is why I'm here. Okay, prizes today brought in by Ted Fink. Next week is Eric Pleasure.
I'm willing.
And the numbers are 509 and 510.
509, I got it. Each day.
Collect your envelopes, and we'll see you next week.